greatest creator. There is a supernatural force in the universe, and this supernatural force is the greatest creator. 前言, 上帝篇前言, preface to the chapter of the greatest creator. 写评, where is the past of humankind? Where is the limit of humanity's future? Can human wisdom prevent an asteroid from colliding with Earth? If we don't know or can't, then let us seek God. The first sentence of chapter 25 of the Tao Te Ching states, "There is a being, wondrous and mysterious, existing before heaven and earth." The Bible begins by stating, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The Diamond Sutra says, "If one sees me through appearances and seeks me through sounds, that person is following a misguided path and cannot see the Tathagata, the greatest creator." The Book of Songs, the Ten of King One Great Brightness states, "This King One, with great care, serves God and enjoys many blessings." The renowned scientist Stephen Hawking wrote in Chapter 8, The Origin and Destiny of the Universe, in A Brief History of Time. The general theory of relativity itself cannot explain these features or answer these questions because it predicts that at the singularity of the Big Bang, the universe began with infinite density, and at that point, general relativity and all other physical laws break down. It seems that science has revealed a set of laws which, within the limits of the uncertainty principle, if we know the state of the universe at any moment, these laws will tell us how it evolves over time. These laws may have originally been established by God. One possible explanation is that God chose this initial structure of the universe for reasons beyond our comprehension. This certainly falls within the power of an omnipotent creator. Unless it was an act of God to create life like ours, explaining why the universe began in this manner is exceedingly difficult. Humans have 6 sensory organs: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. So they have 6 perceptions: vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and spirituality. Humans use these 6 perceptions to communicate with the material world and the non-material world. If a person were blind, how could we convince them that light exists in the universe? How could we prove the existence of light? We would be unable to. Without sight, one cannot perceive light. If a person were deaf, how could we convince them that sound exists in nature? How could we prove the existence of sound? We would be unable to. Without hearing, one cannot perceive sound. If a person lacked spiritual awareness and was spiritually ignorant, how could we convince them that the greatest creator exists in the universe? How could we prove the existence of the greatest creator? We would also be unable to. Without spiritual awareness, one cannot perceive the greatest creator. Spiritual awareness is an innate instinct. Through spiritual awareness, one can fully perceive the existence of the greatest creator. Everyone has spiritual awareness, so why do they still fail to perceive the greatest creator? This is because their spiritual awareness is obscured or dull, similar to how impaired vision prevents one from seeing clearly. When vision declines, wearing glasses can help one see clearly. When spiritual awareness is dull, enhancing wisdom can help one perceive the greatest creator. Some have used a paradoxical question to try to deny the existence of the greatest creator. Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift? This question presents a dilemma. If you say no, it denies the greatest creator. If you say yes, it implies that the greatest creator cannot lift the stone he created, which also denies the greatest creator. Thus, no matter how you answer, the result is to deny the greatest creator, at least in terms of his omnipotence. The person who devised this paradox is either very clever or malicious, aiming to confuse people's spirituality and lead them away from the greatest creator. Such a person is either Satan or someone not favored by the greatest creator. Unable to partake in the truth, they attempt to make others believe it is unattainable, similar to the saying about sour grapes. The question, can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift, is a trap. Similar questions include, are you a thing? How should one answer this question? Whether you say yes or no, you fall into the designer's trap. For instance, answering I am not a thing or I am a thing leads to the same result. Therefore, paradoxical questions should not be answered directly with affirmation or denial. Instead, consider or counter-question based on the question itself. For example, In response to, "Are you a thing?" you might ask, "Are you a thing?" to see how the questioner responds. In response to, "Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift?" you might ask, "Can the greatest creator not lift a stone he has created?" The question, "Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift?" does not apply to the greatest creator himself, just as "Are you a thing?" does not apply to humans. Additionally, this question is inherently self-contradictory, meaning that any answer already implies a denial. Such questions have puzzled many philosophers and logicians. Here are some similar examples. Aren't you an animal born from your parents? Can eyes not see eyes? Isn't a person a non-animal? These types of questions cannot be answered directly but must be rephrased. The answer to the question of the greatest creator is, the greatest creator can create stones under any conditions. The greatest creator can lift stones under any conditions. Do you have further questions? If so, I can address them in this manner. First, I will ask, what does it mean to lift? If holding a stone with both hands and placing it above one's head constitutes lifting, then what about this definition? If not, what does lifting mean? If so, suppose the stone is the earth, and I stand upside down, holding the earth with both hands. Is the earth above my head then? You might argue that it isn't, because the earth is below my head. Fine. Then, if I move along the earth's meridian 360 degrees while performing the same action, the earth should be above my head at some point, right? No? So, which point in the universe is above us? Which point is below us? You might then argue that even though my hands are holding the earth and the earth is above my head, it's not me lifting it, but the earth's gravity pulling me. If so, we must first reconsider the meaning of lifting. What then is lifting? Regardless of how lifting is defined, by changing orientation, I can claim to have lifted the earth. If you agree that I lifted the earth, then I can prove that I did not lift it. So, does the question, "Can the greatest creator create a stone that he cannot lift?" hold? We must seek the greatest creator and understand the greatest creator. Otherwise, we will never grasp the origins of the universe, the origin of life, the past and future of humankind. We will also fail to understand animal instincts and the purpose of life. I am 46 years old and have worked in over 20 different professions: shepherd, farmer, laborer, youth league secretary, clerk, party branch secretary, instructor of a commune cultural propaganda team, fitter, electrician, auto mechanic, middle school teacher, office staff, office director, translator, driver, salesperson, grocery store manager, restaurant purchaser, bar attendant, nightclub manager, fast food manager, and real estate developer. Except for the roles of office director and restaurant purchaser, which I held for only 2 months each, I have worked in all other positions for more than 6 months. What have I gained from working in so many different occupations? The gain is that a life without faith and without a goal is like a cloud floating aimlessly in the sky, driven by the wind. A few years ago, a mysterious car accident I experienced personally prompted me to start exploring the meaning of life. What am I living for? For the motherland and the nation? Nonsense. I can't even solve my own survival problems. Yet I talk about the motherland and the nation. For my parents? Definitely not, because if it were for them, I wouldn't be able to continue living after they passed away. For my partner? That's absurd. If I didn't exist, my partner might actually live better. For my children? No. Why do people without children still continue to live? My children have established their careers, so why should I keep living? Living not only doesn't help my children anymore, but it also adds trouble and burden to them. For myself? Ridiculous. I can't decide my own birth, nor can I decide my own death. If I could choose, I would prefer to have no life. Neptune, Pluto, comets, the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, meteoroids, interstellar matter, the Earth's satellite moon, and other asteroids. Other celestial bodies revolve around the sun, attracted by the sun's gravitation. I can relate to is a certain form of overall stiffness and tightness and the indistinguishable internal explosion at the sexual organs. My body gradually tightens up. I feel as if I have reached the precipitous peak of perfect happiness. Then I approach the plateau of ecstasy. I utter a sharp scream, glide past the crest plane of bliss, then I experience 5 or 6 fits of violent twitches and convulsions, which are acute, vehement, and agitating in the beginning and become duller, slower, and milder. This is the orgasm in sexual pleasure. From the above statement, we can see that the physiological and psychological sensations during orgasm are incomparably wonderful pleasures and the ultimate beauty. No wonder Bangu said in the Book of Han, Arts and Literature, sexual intercourse is the ultimate expression of emotion and nature, the boundary of Tao. Jared Diamond, a physiology professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, said, "Human sex is weird. It is magical, incredible, and beyond nature. The pleasure between two sexes is so magical, so soul-stirring, so desirable. No wonder Freud concluded that the driving force of sex is the greatest force that propels social development. Then, who created such a wonderful feeling for humankind? Is sexual orgasm a result of natural evolution? Is sexual pleasure solely for the purpose of reproducing?" R. Stephen Howard, a graduate student at Indiana State University, said, "In terms of energy required, asexual reproduction is a more economical way to transmit genes to one's progeny." His research results showed that asexual reproduction is the most economical way and the most effective way to transmit the genetic traits of a living organism to its offspring. But how did sexual reproduction come into being? Is sexual pleasure only for bearing children? The answer is no. Prostitutes engage in prostitution not to bear children for pleasure-seeking men, and those men do not seek out prostitutes to have children with them. Human intelligence can create a master machine that produces products continuously. So, why couldn't the greatest creator make a matrix that continually produces offspring? The pleasure of sex is purely for the enjoyment of life, and this is the universal love of the greatest creator. As for the propagation of offspring, it is only a byproduct of the pleasure of sex. Moreover, asexual reproduction will pass on diseases carried by genes to future generations. Through copulation, diseases carried by genes can be remitted or even eliminated. The benefits of crossbreeding are evident. Therefore, a species may go extinct without a sex life. Thus, the pleasure of sex is an arrangement of the greatest creator. Sex life conforms to the decree of the greatest creator. Suppressing, inhibiting, or destroying sex life is against human nature. We should have sex life and enjoy it too. Sex life should accompany us to the other shore of life. It is unreasonable to suppress, inhibit, or destroy sex life because it goes against human nature. Why should we refrain from what the greatest creator has created? There is no such thing as debauchery and dissipation in sex life. The more, the better. There is nothing wrong with the Muzi-Mei phenomenon. If Lin Daiyu in A Dream of Red Mansion had experienced an orgasm, she would not have had such a miserable ending. Does this mean that Life Genuine is against Christianity and Buddhism? The 7th precept of the 10 Commandments is, "You shall not commit adultery." In Matthew 5 verses 28 to 29, Jesus said, "But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into Gehenna." Gehenna, a garbage dump outside of Jerusalem. The first precept of upholding the right Dharma in Volume 6 of the Buddhist Shurangama Sutra is to abstain from sexual misconduct. If the minds of all sentient beings in the 6 realms of the world are not tainted by sexual desire, they will not be subject to birth and death. If you cultivate samadhi without removing the desire, you cannot transcend worldly sufferings. Even if you have great wisdom and meditation, if you do not refrain from sexual misconduct, you will fall into the demonic path. There are high-ranking demon kings, middle-ranking demon followers, and low-ranking demon women. These demons also have their own followers, and each one claims to have achieved the heavenly path. In the Dharma ending age after my nirvana, these demonic followers will be prevalent in the world, widely promoting greed and sexual misconduct as virtuous conduct, causing sentient beings to fall into the pit of attachment and lose the path to enlightenment. Jesus is God, and Sakyamuni is Buddha. Their profound wisdom is beyond us mortals, and their teachings are invaluable treasures to our life. Jesus instructs us in divinity. Following the supreme road of life guided by Jesus, we can enter the kingdom of the greatest creator. Sakyamuni enlightens us from the perspective of Buddhism. If we want to attain Buddhahood, we must break with lewdness, not only physiologically but also psychologically. Just like the teachings of Jesus, you have already committed adultery even if you only have harbored the lustful desire. Christianity is the religion of God, and Buddhism is the religion of Buddha. The two religions have made indelible contributions to mankind. Through them, we have come to know the road to supreme life space. It is the primary task of Life Genuine to make Jesus and Sakyamuni an integrated part of our life. If the path of human development is comparable to a three-story building, then Christianity will be on the top level, Buddhism at the middle, and Life Genuine will be at the bottom. From the perspective of the level of life, Buddhism is a direct ship that leads people to the Western photoelectric induction, and so on. Now there are automatic doors in cities around the globe. The door closes when a person leaves and opens when a person approaches. Some street lamps will be automatically turned on when it becomes dark and will be automatically turned off when dawn breaks. Some anti-theft devices will automatically set off alarms when a person enters a security zone. Telepathy between life forms happens at every moment. In case 1, the quadruplets will all have a fever as long as one of them catches a cold. When one yawns, the others will open their mouths simultaneously. The same phenomenon occurs with twins and multi-births. Different degrees of telepathy occur at any moment between mother and daughter, father and son, lovers and enemies. The abnormal behaviors of animals before earthquakes, the pain in joints suffered by arthritis patients before heavy rain, the frantic movements of insects before storms, the suicidal behavior of plants like bamboo prior to a disaster, and the sudden fidgets and vexations experienced by people occasionally are all results of telepathy. 2 days ago, November 30th, 2003, I ran into a former colleague of mine. He had rented a luxury villa with a courtyard where 4 rows of grapevines, each 30 meters long, grew. He told me that the grapevines had not produced grapes for many years, but after he began to live in the villa, he watered the grapevines every 3 days, applied fertilizers, hoed up weeds, and dug up the soil. Now the grapevines are heavily laden with grapes, and he can earn a handsome sum of money from them alone. He said excitedly, "Plants will repay when they get enough care and protection from humans." This is also a kind of telepathy. In front of the window of the master bedroom in my yard, there is a tree whose name is unknown to me. It blooms small white and purple flowers, which emit a strong fragrance when the tree is in full bloom. One year, when I stood in front of the flowers, I muttered to myself, "These flowers are so beautiful and fragrant. How wonderful it would be if the tree is in bloom every day. It would be very good if the tree can flower many more times every year." 3 months later, the tree was in bloom once again. I asked the gardener, Gift, who had worked in this compound for nearly 10 years, whether this tree would flower twice every year. He replied, "No, it flowers only once every year, and I don't know why it has flowered twice this year." Suddenly, I realized that it was my wish that had prompted it to flower one more time. I felt very life. This involves the gender of one's past life. If a woman has a past life as a man, the inertia of biology will continue to play its role and will incline her to instinctively like a woman instead of a man, although she has become a woman in this life. When she meets a woman with the same past life, they will easily connect and fall in love with each other. Similarly, if a man has his past life as a woman, then he will still be inclined towards men in this life. Homosexuality is not a morbidity, but a spontaneous instinct, which may fade away with the passage of time. Moreover, there is a saying, "Rivers and mountains may be changed, but it's hard to alter a man's nature." What is true nature, and why is it unchangeable? Nature refers to innate characteristics. When does nature come into being? Is it during primary school? When held in mother's arms? Since the time of the embryo in the mother's body? Since the time of existence in the womb? Or since the combination of sperm and ovum? If nature begins from the time mentioned above, then there is no question of hard to alter a man's nature. Therefore, it can be concluded that nature has been around for centuries and is deeply rooted, unlikely to change in a relatively short period. We can observe people around us or study some special individuals. By comparing their habits to those of certain animals, we can easily deduce that certain people possess the original nature of those animals. Thus, we can conclude that such people may have been those animals in their past life. For example, for thousands of years, philosophers and thinkers have pondered the question, "Who am I?" but have failed to answer it. Who am I? Am I my family? No, because I am still myself even without my family. Am I my clothes? No, because I am still myself after I undress. Am I my teeth? No, because I am still myself even after losing all my teeth. Am I my hair? No, because I am still myself even if I become bald. Am I my eyes? No, because I am still myself even if I become blind. Am I my legs? No, because I am still myself even if I am amputated. Am I my heart? No, because I am still myself after organ transplantation. Am I my blood? No, because I am still myself even after a blood transfusion. If I am none of these, then who on earth am I? Well, I am Tathagata. What is Tathagata? Tathagata is the essential origin, the consciousness, soul, that already exists beyond the flesh and endures hardships in this world by residing in this home of my flesh. When this home of my flesh ceases to exist, I still exist. All I have to do is find another home. It's like crossing a river. I borrowed a boat, but I would give up the boat and go on shore after I crossed. Buddhism preaches that an enlightened heart is perceptive of nature, which is perceptive of Buddha. If we understand this principle, we are already Tathagata Buddha. We will go directly to the Elysium world after death and won't have to return to the human world to continue struggling. All right, regarding the phenomenon of life and death, let's discuss just these briefly. My purpose is not to stick to the facts, but to explain that the phenomenon of life and death, which is difficult to reverse, is determined by the greatest creator and has its own purpose and meaning. Without the greatest creator, there would be no life, let alone life and death. 27. The crowing of roosters. I grew up in the countryside, and I have vivid memories of roosters crowing. Especially when I needed to wake up early, my diligent and kind mother would use the crowing of roosters to determine the time, prepare breakfast and packed food in advance, and then wake me up. Roosters crow 3 times each night at regular intervals. The first crowing is at about 3:30 in the early morning, the second around 4:30, and the last around dawn. Excuse me, the time of crowing may not be accurate because I have been away from my hometown for more than 2 decades, and I am now living in an area where no crowing of roosters can be heard. Some people say that roosters crow to tell other roosters, "This is my territory, and do not come in." Others say that roosters crow to attract hens. I would say that roosters crow to tell people the time. Prior to industrial civilization, people did not have clocks and watches. For survival, they had to know the time of the night. For example, 2 or more people on a hunting trip would set the second crowing as the time to get up. Or a group of people were to complete a certain task together and set the third crowing as the time to gather at the end of the village. Roosters crowing is involuntary. It is a conditioned reflex or induction of its biological clock in its body against the stimulation of the magnetic wave of the magnetic field when the Earth rotates to a certain angle. The rooster is not aware that its crowing is to tell people the time of day and serve people, just like us humans who are living on the Earth and are not aware that we are serving the greatest creator. The rooster cannot realize the meaning of its crowing late at night, but the man who creates the rooster is well aware of the meaning. In the universe, there is no sound that does not have a purpose. The man who creates the rooster does so for the convenience of human survival, and thus has created this miracle. If roosters could realize the purpose of their crowing, they would stop doing so when they see that many of their friends and relatives have been killed by humans. If the crowing is to warn others of their own species not to violate their territory, they will not do so late at night, thinking to themselves, "Who will come to invade my territory at such late hours? I'd better conserve my energy and strength till tomorrow and fight off whoever has the nerve to invade my territory." If the rooster wants to attract more hens, it should also be aware that during the day, The hens need to lay eggs and take care of their chicks, so they would not pay attention to him if he crows late at night. It would be better for him to get a good night's sleep, keep his energy, and wait for dawn to come before he spends time with his wives, concubines, mistresses, and wildflowers on the roadside. Therefore, the rooster's crowing is only automatic behavior, but the rooster's unintentional crowing serves conscious purposes. Then, who designed this purpose? Who but the greatest creator? 28. 蜜蜂的智慧. 28. The wisdom of bees. What kind of house structure is most reasonable if we humans are to construct several hundred houses, each of which accommodates only one person temporarily incapable of activity, while taking the least material and labor and having the strongest structure, the most beautiful appearance, and the greatest cubage? Should the houses be made of interconnected cylinders? No, the different sizes of human legs and waists may prove a waste of some space, and the waste of space means the waste of labor and materials. So it is not the most economical way of house building. In addition, cylinders have too little contact area between them, and it is not enough to serve as a wall for 2 rooms. Should the houses be made of interconnected cubes? No, the 4 corners will be a waste of space. It does not look very pretty either. Should the houses be made of adjoining octahedrons? No, the more sides a structure has, the more difficult it is to build and more time-consuming. Should houses be made of many irregular shapes? No, the houses thus constructed will not appear good, besides a lot of more time and material may be wasted. Then what structure is most reasonable? The honeycomb of bees is the most ideal structure. The honeycomb is made up of hexagonal columns. Since the lower part and middle part of the larva are different in sizes, the bottom of the honeycomb has been made into 3 congruent rhombuses. In 1712, the astronomer G.F. Maraldi of Paris Observatory concluded through measurement that the obtuse angle of the rhombus is 109.28 degrees and the acute angle is 70.32 degrees. For these figures, a French scientist specially consulted a Swiss mathematician. What is the most economical way in terms of materials to construct a hexagonal column with a bottom consisting of 3 congruent rhombuses? The mathematician's result is that the column can use the least possible material only if the obtuse angle of the rhombuses is 109.28 degrees and the acute angle is 70.32 degrees. Wow! The bees are too wonderful. Long before the birth of man, they have solved the problem that man has not discovered and realized until now. Each bee knows that the column can be constructed most effectively and economically only if the obtuse and acute angles of the rhombuses are respectively 109.28 degrees and 70.32 degrees. For us humans, only the greatest mathematicians can work out the result. How can ordinary people compare with those tiny bees? Are bees smarter, more intelligent, and wiser than humans? If this is the case, why don't the bees know for whom they have toiled by gathering honey from hundreds of flowers? Humans are not only reluctant to give to others what belongs to them, but are always calculating to encroach upon what belongs to others, even wanting to occupy all the properties of the world for their own good. So, are the tiny bees carrying forward the unselfish communism style? If bees have such advanced wisdom and an open mind, they must have, according to the theory of evolution, evolved into creatures far superior to humans long ago, since they came to the earth long before the birth of humans. Why have humans overtaken bees in evolution? The founder of the theory of evolution, Darwin, exclaimed, "Natural selection is powerless to explain such a perfect structure of the honeycomb because as we see it, either in terms of labor or the use of beeswax, the honeycomb conforms to the theory of maximum economy and is absolutely perfect." Then, even the originator of the theory of evolution has realized that the wisdom of bees does not result from evolution. We are also the greatest mathematicians can work out the result. How can ordinary people compare with those tiny bees? Are bees smarter, more intelligent, and wiser than humans? If this is the case, why don't the bees know for whom they have toiled by gathering honey from hundreds of flowers? Humans are not only reluctant to give to others what belongs to them, but are always calculating to encroach upon what belongs to others, even wanting to occupy all the properties of the world for their own good. So, are the tiny bees carrying forward the unselfish communism style? If bees have such advanced wisdom and an open mind, they must have, according to the theory of evolution, evolved into creatures far superior to humans long ago since they came to the Earth long before the birth of humans. Why have humans overtaken bees in evolution? The founder of the theory of evolution, Darwin, exclaimed, "Natural selection is powerless to explain such a perfect structure of the honeycomb because as we see it, either in terms of labor or the use of beeswax, the honeycomb conforms to the theory of maximum economy and is absolutely perfect." Then, even the originator of the theory of evolution has realized that the wisdom of bees does not result from evolution. We are also clear that the wisdom of bees cannot compare with that of humans. And bees would certainly not carry forward the unselfish communism style for humans who have been severely exploiting them. Then there is only one origin of their wisdom: instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is the capability possessed after birth. The capability possessed after birth proved to be contradictory to the theory of evolution. So, is the theory of evolution a fallacy? Doesn't the inborn capability prove that everything has been what it is now from the very beginning? Doesn't the inborn capability prove that things are not developed through evolution but are created? Doesn't the inborn capability prove the ability of the greatest creator who has created everything? Aren't the degrees of the acute and obtuse angles of the rhombuses at the bottom of the honeycomb designed by the greatest creator and added to the instinct of the bees? Do we still want to deny the existence of the greatest creator? 29th Xiaoji Puoker Chu. 29. The chick hatches from its eggshell. The chick emerges from its eggshell after 21 days of being hatched by the hen. During this time, the yolk and egg white inside the egg transform into a chick. Before hatching, the chick is isolated from the outside world, and it does not learn how to break the shell from any external source. Despite this, the chick eventually manages to break the shell and enter the world. The rooster spends all day trying to seduce hens and never cares about the life or death of the chicks. Even if the mother hen complains that the rooster doesn't take care of the household chores or educate the offspring, the rooster has an excuse. "Who knows if I am the father of this little thing? Last month, I saw you fooling around with the neighbor's rooster." Well, the rooster won't pass on any experience to the unhatched chicks. So, did the mother hen teach the chicks how to break out of the eggshell? No. If it had the consciousness to teach the chicks this, it would be better to just help the chicks break the shell itself. So, who taught the chick? Who told the chick about the colorful and wonderful world outside? And how does the chick know that its tender little beak can peck through the eggshell? Why is the eggshell thick enough to protect the chick yet thin enough for the chick to break through? There is only one answer: instinct. Instinct is not evolutionary. It is innate. This means that the first chick hatched from the first egg laid by the first chicken on Earth already knew that there was a world outside the eggshell where it could survive, and that its small pointed beak was strong enough to break through the eggshell. Of course, it does not have this awareness. When the time comes, it just pecks its way out. So, since it is instinct, and since the first chick hatched from the first egg on Earth already possessed this instinct without any genetic information, we can only ask the greatest creator. 30. 候鸟迁徙，奥秘在哪? 30. What is the secret of bird migration? When I was young, I used to see flocks of wild geese flying in the blue sky in my homeland in late summer and early autumn. Just as described in the primary school textbook, autumn is coming and it is getting cooler. A flock of wild geese is flying southward, sometimes in the formation of the fork and sometimes in a line. One day, at the turn of the rainy and dry season this year, I was queuing at a service station in Zimbabwe, where petrol was in short supply. Suddenly, some noises in the sky caught my attention. I looked out of the car window and spotted a dozen crow-like birds perched on a large tree not very far away. They were flapping their wings and making caw-caw-caw noises. Out of curiosity and boredom, I began to watch them, figuring that they must be holding a meeting and discussing the implementation of a certain project. Unexpectedly, however, their calls attracted more and more birds of the same species from all directions. In less than half an hour, nearly 1,000 birds had gathered. Suddenly, they flew away from the big tree and hovered and rose higher and higher in the sky. I wondered whether they were holding a party in this manner of hovering, or were they selecting Miss International with the most elegant flight? I came out of the car and stood on the lawn beside the road, watching them. They were hovering higher and higher in the sky until they looked smaller and smaller. I wondered, are they competing to fly the highest? Unexpectedly, the birds that flew the highest suddenly flew northwest along a straight line. The others were still circling, but they also flew along the same straight line when they reached the same height, as if they had boarded a train and rode away along the fixed railway. I finally came to realize after hard thought that those must be migratory birds. At the beginning, they clamored on the tree to hail the flock to fly together to a distant place. Later, they flew by hovering in order to increase altitude. When they reached a certain height, they met an air current. It helped them to fly to distant places more easily. Oh, how clever the migratory birds are. After returning home, I checked some documents about migratory birds and discovered more surprising facts. For example, Arctic terns build nests in the Arctic Circle. They fly to the South Pole at the turn of summer and autumn. They fly back to the North Pole next year. Every year they travel for 35,200 kilometers. There is an oriole called Blackpoll warbler, small in size and weighing only 20-odd grams. Before autumn comes, they fly from Alaska, America, to the east coast of Canada or New England, where they feast on all the dainty food to increase its fat and strength. Then, when it is turning cold, they begin a long journey of flight, first toward Africa, over the Atlantic Ocean, then after taking over an air current, they turn to Brazil and South America. The whole journey is 3,840 kilometers at an altitude of more than 6,000 meters. The flight lasts 4 days and 4 nights. The white storks in Europe fly 12,800 kilometers to spend the winter in South Africa. The long-tailed cuckoos in New Zealand fly 6,400 kilometers to spend the winter in the Pacific Islands. Seagulls in England's Isle of Man fly from Wales to Brazil at over 700 kilometers a day for 16 consecutive days. The wild geese fly over the Himalayas mountains at an altitude of 9,000 meters. What is more incredible is that generally, the older generations of cuckoos start their journey earlier. Smaller cuckoos usually start their migration a few days later. Unaccompanied by their parents, small cuckoos make their first flight to a strange place and can fly to their destination unerringly and unite with their parents. On the contrary, young starlings set off earlier than their parents and reach their destination all by themselves. Marvelous. Incredible. I wonder how they know that the cold weather is coming. How do they know which day is suitable for flight? How do they know that there is an air current at an altitude of thousands of meters? How do they know that this air current would carry them to their desired place? How do they know that that remote place is now a time of spring and flowers with sufficient food? What power has propelled them to embark upon such an epic journey across oceans? How do they travel round trip without going astray? How do they identify directions while flying? How do they find their habitat without being accompanied and guided by their parents? I searched for scientists' explanations and found the following 4 major answers. Something like a biological clock inside the migratory bird can sense the upcoming cold and the appropriate time to take off and can calculate the position of the sun while flying in the sky and determine its direction and route of flying by continuously adjusting the angle between itself and the sun or stars with the help of the sun, the moon, and the stars. An inherent meteorologist, migratory birds can determine the duration of their stay at the habitat and the timing of migration according to meteorological conditions such as temperature, lighting, wind direction, and rainfall. They can choose a sunny day to begin their flight, adjust their flying manner according to the changes and fluctuations of wind directions and barometric pressures, and make use of the ascending air current for gliding to save their energy. Extremely sensitive to geomagnetic waves, migratory birds can identify their directions according to geomagnetic waves and can decide the time of migration and habitat according to the geomagnetic information known to them. Through millions of years of evolution, birds have gradually realized the rules governing the seasonal to a more distant place when the hares fly with the wind. If they fall to the original place, all the seeds will grow in the same place the following year, and the family will be too crowded. Oh, this turns out to be the secret. In nature, plants have a great many ways to spread their seeds. I think dandelions are the smartest. They grow hairs so that the wind can scatter their seeds to a faraway place. The design is ingenious and unique and can be called a stunt in this aspect. Another plant looks a little like Siberian cocklebur, of which the leaves resemble the donkey's ears in size and shape, so it is also called donkey's ear by my vernacular. I remember once my cousin was infuriated when he sheared about a dozen sheep at home. Why? Because there were a lot of Siberian cockleburs attached to the sheep's wool. In each Siberian cocklebur, there were about 30 bristles, and on the top of the bristle was a barb. The barbs had tightly grabbed the sheep's wool, and it was extremely difficult to take them off and had to be torn off one by one. Look, the plants that look like Siberian cocklebur are also very clever. They use barbs to clutch at anything that they come up with, so that their children can be brought to a distant place to expand their territory of growth. I can remember another time when my wife and I went on a trip to a lakeside. We drove from Harare. After driving along Bulawayo for more than 40 kilometers and turning left for more than 10 kilometers, we could see the lake. We parked the car at the campsite beside the lake and walked along the grass clumps on the lakeside. We had to stop after walking for only 20 minutes. It turned out that the woolen skirt of my wife was covered with thousands of grass seeds, whose names I did not know. The 8 logical inferences that prove the existence of the greatest creator. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Cong Long and Ailian. Everything has a source, and the source is the greatest creator. 万物有源，源头为上帝. The Amazon River that runs across South America, the mighty Nile River, the surging Yangtze River, and the roaring Mississippi River all have their headstreams. The Benguela Cold Current, Peru Cold Current, and Guyana Warm Current all have their sources. The Rio de Janeiro London Airline, Los Angeles Paris Airline, Honolulu Manila Airline, and Paris Colombo Airline all have their starting points. All the tools we commonly use, from pencils, needles, shovels, spoons, and pliers to cars, computers, printers, cameras, and machine tools, as well as all the objects we use, from musical instruments, chess, painting and calligraphy, books, watches and clocks, to tables, chairs and wooden stool, shoes, socks, hats, teacups, thermoses, desk lamps, phones, refrigerators and televisions. Everything created by humanity has its origin and did not appear out of nowhere. The cats, dogs, sheep, and pigs we keep in our homes all have a source, and even the plants we cultivate in our gardens, such as peonies, peaches, pears, and apricots, did not appear out of thin air. Their original origins can be traced. Music, writing, art, medicine, theories, methods, magic arts and axioms, and theorems all have sources. White Europeans, black Africans, yellow Asians, Arabians, and Brazilians are all descendants of their ancestors. The towering Himalayas, the fertile and vast Nile Delta, the extensive Amazon alluvial plain, and the Antarctic glaciers are all formed by the vicissitudes of history. All things have their origins, and the Earth, the solar system, and the universe are no exception. They too have their beginnings. Since everything has an origin, there must be a primordial origin, and this primordial origin is the greatest creator. Everything is in motion, and the primordial motive power comes from the greatest creator. ทุก万物在动，出动力来自上帝. Mountains are rotating, winds are dancing, rivers are flowing, and springs are bubbling. Clouds are drifting, and the earth is moving. The sea is